Welcome to the Hybrid Coaching Podcast, your resource for all things hybrid fitness. I'm Anthony Parasini, your host from the Hybrid Engine Coaching and Training Program, and joining me is the phenomenal James Kelly, a HYROX Elite 15 athlete and head coach and owner of JK Hybrid Coaching. In this podcast, we are dedicated to catering to everyone in the hybrid fitness community. Whether you're a coach, an elite athlete, or someone just starting out on their fitness journey, we are here to provide you with valuable insights and strategies in the hybrid fitness world. From mastering the intricacies of HYROX and DECA competitions to refining your strength and conditioning training techniques, we've got you covered. For those of you who are new to hybrid fitness or simply want to enjoy the health and beauty benefits without the pressure of competition, we're here for you too. We'll break down the fundamentals, offer tips for getting started, and help you build a solid foundation for your fitness journey. Each episode, we tackle a specific topic and we break it down in a way that's accessible and applicable for everyone. So whether you're a seasoned coach, an elite athlete, or someone just dipping their toes in the world of hybrid fitness, join us as we dive deep into the education, information, and inspiration you need to reach your goals. Let's make hybrid fitness work for you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hybrid Coaching Podcast with me, Anthony Parasini, and James Kelly, Elite 15 athlete, getting ready for the World Championships right now. This is our first podcast, so we'll be going over just kind of our background of who we are and a couple other general information about us, as well as we're going to start with one of our favorite topics, how to stay generally fit year-round to be ready at any hybrid event that you're preparing for. And then how to prepare specifically for that event leading out of your general fitness. Because you know what they say, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So, hi, James. How you doing?
How you going, Anthony? Thanks, mate. Yeah, very good, thank you. And excited to start this with you and to see where it takes us as well. So, mate, looking forward to the chats.
Great. So let's just start off with you. We'll give a little background on you of your athletic career and where it's taking you, where it started. Also, why don't you throw in there where you're from?
Yeah, so where to start? So obviously I think the listeners would probably guess that I'm Australian, although sometimes I think the Aussie and the Kiwi accent can be very similar, but I'm Australian through and through. Was born and raised in Brisbane, which is on the east coast of Australia. And I was very lucky, Anthony. I was brought into this life with a very loving family, and I guess a very competitive in nature family as well. And I say that now as a positive thing because I think looking back, it has helped me become who I am now. And we'll get into that later, but my family was obviously and still is everything to me. I've got an older sister who I still remember growing up with, and we were just competitive against each other with everything. I guess at such a young age, if you have some good healthy competition, it can kind of set yourself up for being that way inclined in life, right? I was lucky enough. Yeah.
Did your sister ever beat you up? I have an older sister, and she would sometimes take it to me when I was younger. So just family dynamic there. Did she ever pick on you a little?
No, we never got physical, but we got verbal, and I knew how to get on her nerves as much as she knew how to get on mine as well. And I still remember a couple of great let's just say like competitive argument debates. Um, and not only that though, like we were very competitive we used to create games in the backyard. And that'd just be some sort of sporting game, but we'd create them. And then hell would break loose if I'd be losing and she'd be winning or vice versa, and we'd have to try and change the rules or whatever. But I'm saying this in such a good way as well, because as I said, I I think it was such a healthy competitive relationship that has kind of, I don't know, got me to who I, or sorry, not got me, like has had, like it's made me who I am today, right? um I was lucky that my mum and dad um understood that team sports were very important at a young age, which I totally agree with. I got I started playing cricket and Aussie rules football and soccer actually, at the age of 4, 5, 6 years of age, and not only like the ball skills and the let's just say the actual skills of those games were very good for myself at that age. It was more the teammanship and making sure that I was learning how to be a part of a team. I was
Yeah. So
lucky, yeah,
so those just to me, so I grew up in the USA, and those three sports you listed that you started with, cricket and soccer, and did you say what was the third one?
Aussie rules football,
Yeah,
yeah,
Aussie rules football, which we'll get into in a minute, but those are three very international sports that people growing up in the US probably aren't
yeah,
as familiar
true.
with. So,
Because you don't have cricket, you don't have a
no.
lot of cricket either, do
N-
you?
Not a big,
Wow.
not a big cricket country. I mean, soccer on the women's side is very good. On the men's side is, sometimes they make the World Cup, but
Yeah,
uh most of the time, and Aussie rules football, obviously we don't have that here.
you
It's
don't.
American football. So um yeah, the
Yeah.
differences there would be interesting to talk about.
Well, those three, sorry, I started with soccer. That was my first one. And I think in Australia, I think a lot of boys start with soccer, and I think it's a great starting sport at 4 or 5 years of age. And then that transition to Aussie rules football and cricket, and then a lot of running as I grew up as well. But my main sport was Aussie rules, football at a like a teenage age, um and then that went hand in hand with my like long distance running. I loved my cross country at school and track. Um and those were my two kind of focuses when I was growing up through high school. Um and like if you don't know what Aussie rules is probably one of the longest ball sport games in terms of time domain. There's 30-minute quarters, and the oval pitch is enormous, meaning that there's a lot of running.
It's
And
2 hours of gameplay.
2 hours of
That's
gameplay.
that's very long. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I,
just for reference, because I don't know a lot about Aussie rules football, is it like American football or more like rugby? Um,
oh, it's not like either. It's probably more like soccer, football, soccer, more than any other. Um, there's a lot. It's as I said, it's on a bigger pitch. Number one, number two, it's 30-minute quarters, so your gameplay is immense. But the biggest area that I believe is the best area of Aussie rules, or not area. The biggest thing about it is that the referee, like there's obviously an umpire or referee, but time, like the game flows a lot more. Like there's little stops, right? Compared to rugby or even football. So long story short, the aerobic running is very important.
So in a single game, 2 hours, you could be running, several kilometers, maybe 10K over the course of that entire game, just back and forth on a pitch.
So when I was 16, I was a part of like a development squad that for a couple of games we had a tracker on us, and a couple of my games I was clocking 15, 16 kilometers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and it's a known thing that some of the professionals run 16, 17, 18 kilometers. And it's not just long and slow running or zone 2 running. It's powerful, high threshold running as well.
Yeah,
So,
it's like you're almost sprinting up and
yeah.
down, sprint, stop, sprint, stop. So for anybody listening, 15 kilometers is about 9.3 miles. So you're
Yeah.
looking 9 to 10 miles of running in a single game over the
Yeah.
course of 2 hours in different sprints. So tell us, how long did you play that for, and when did you get out of that, and what'd you do next?
Well, I pretty much played that from 8 years of age, Anthony, till about 25, 26. So it was it was my, not only part of my life, it was my identity as well. Like I was a footy player. But during that time, I actually got straight after school. I started to do, in the off season, I wanted to do some marathons. So I got stuck into the long marathon running training, and there was a stint of like an 18-month period. I think I was 20 and 21. I did 6 marathons in 18 months. And like, we might talk about that one day. Actually, I dug myself a hole, actually. In fact, like I ended up probably doing too much too soon at that age, in terms of quality, like marathon training. And then it got me to, 25, 26, still playing Aussie rules, to then kind of find High Rocks. When I was 27, turning 28 when I found High Rocks. But yeah, so that's.
How far did you progress in Aussie rules? If you're 26, 27 years old, is that semi-pro? Is that professional?
It was.
What level did you get to? And then also, what was your best marathon, your PR?
Yeah. So I had a few years of like playing semi-professional, but I was never close at making it. I was good, but I was never great. I was actually good at a lot of sports, but not great at any. And I think that's one of the things that really, like, if I look back at it now, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm really good at High Rocks, because I had to put in a lot of work when I was a kid to be good. And I love that, like, because I can say now that I love the work, if that makes sense. And I got brought up having to work hard. So I was, semi-professional for a few years. And then, yeah, the marathons, my best marathon was a 2-hour 50. And I did that twice, actually. And the second time I was on track for about a 2:46. And if you're listening and you've done a marathon, you'll understand that the marathon does not start until, to me now, it actually doesn't start till like the 35, 36 kilometer mark. And that's when it just hit me. I just hit the wall, and I ended up coming in at a 250, bang on what I had done previously. So I've got a bit of a, I don't know, spite for the marathon, and I'm looking forward to doing another one just to prove a point to myself.
Nice.
So yeah.
So after your marathons, after Aussie Rules was done, talk to us about what'd you do next? What one after
So
that?
not only like I was still playing Aussie rules um and running a lot, because I just love running and always have. Um, I was coaching. I was in the fitness space, and I'll straight after school, I was not lucky enough, but I pretty much found myself managing a gym, um, and taking group classes for a couple of years. And I fell in love with that. And I was 18, 19 years of age, but totally fell in love with kind of being a mentor and a coach to others with their health and fitness. And that pretty much transitioned to me kind of enjoying my own health and fitness and my own, fitness transformations, and then slowly but surely getting stuck into some functional fitness kind of competitions as well. So I've never done CrossFit properly, but I'd enter some mini CrossFit competitions here and there, and always try to see if there's functional fitness comps that would attract me. And that's what I used to do as well. I'd play footy, but then also do these functional fitness comps on the side. But that was just a combination of what I was doing for work as well. I thought it flowed with work as well, because a lot of my clients and members at the gym used to go to these comps as well. So I used to love it, mate. And yeah, and lo and behold, now absolutely in love with high rocks.
That's great. And so you touched on it a little bit there. Your athletic career went, through from a low age all the way through your footy games and your marathon training, and you were looking for functional fitness that kind of combined, that love of the gym and everything. And then you were looking for something that could combine that love of the gym with your running ability that you developed. And that's how High Rocks came about. You touched on your coaching background there. How long have you been coaching for? And just give us a little rundown of your coaching, your history with it.
Yeah, I'm 30 years of age now, and I'd probably say I've been a coach for a decade now, since I was 18 or thereabouts. And I think the biggest thing about that is, and sorry, the best thing about that is I've coached a lot of different types of athletes, and not only athletes, but just the general population as well. And I've learned a lot. I obviously did my certifications of personal training, Cert 3 and 4. But the biggest thing that I learned about coaching is that you learn on the go. And if you're a good coach, you're always open-minded to different ways to coach or different ways to view things, to make sure that you're trying to get the most out of that individual. I've coached, as I said before, Anthony, I've coached, group training, functional fitness. I've been a personal trainer. I've been a sport coach. Yeah. So there's a lot of kind of coaching experience in my background, and the best, as I just said, the best thing, it's very broad. Yeah, that's kind of allowed me to understand that there's not necessarily a one right way to coach or to train for something. There's always, well, it's always better to be open-minded, right? So yeah,
Decide which one works best for you. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So that's fantastic. So you have what's your proudest moment as a coach? Like something you've
Wow.
done or seen your athletes do that really like you celebrated.
I think like the first thing that comes into my head is coaching my best mate now, and has been for a while. His name's Jack Simpson. Jack and I met when he walked into the group training gym that I was coaching. And I still remember the day he walked in. And I'm not offending him here because he'll be the first to tell his story, but he was very unhealthy when he walked into that gym. And this was, I don't know, like 5, 6 years ago now. But I was able to help him. I'm the first to say that he did the work. He all like, coaches can say that, um, you know, um, I've helped an athlete, but they've still got to do the work, right? Jack transformed his whole life, lost a lot of weight, and now is just a different person. And look, like that's the most cherished memory for me, is just knowing that Jack has totally changed and transformed his life for the better. Because when he walked into that gym and I met him, he was a totally different person, and he wasn't happy, he wasn't healthy. And now to sit back and understand that he's running marathons, he rode on a Concept 2 erg for a marathon the other day all by himself, and he decided to do that with no music either. And all this stuff that like, I just can't believe like I've been able to help or be on someone like his journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like he's a special guy to me, right? Because we've been able to, he's definitely one of my best mates. So that's probably one of my, and the ongoing kind of journey that I'm on with him as well.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. And now you've been a coach, you have a coaching platform, and you've recently made your break into the Elite 15 for High Rocks. So performing right now at a top coaching and top athletic level.
Yeah, yeah. And there's not a day that goes by, Anthony, that I actually try to like sit back and go, wow, like I can't believe what I'm doing. I'm living my dream at the moment. And it also is great because I feel like I've just gotten started as well. In, my own athletic career, like as a athlete myself, but also a coach. And like it's not um it's not a secret now that we're working together, and you're helping me with that as well, mate. So yeah, I'm really excited for what's to come, right? Mate, kind of reverting the conversation to you now. I'd love to know, and I'm sure the listeners would love to know, um, where did you come from, and where, like, what's your background, and take us through how you got brought up, one as an athlete and also as a coach as well.
Yeah. So similar actually to you, my family, not everybody is blessed with it, but extremely close and loving. I'm a middle child. I have two sisters, one older, one younger. Um, and my parents were very young. They had all three of us kids by the time they were 24 or 25 years old.
Wow.
They had my older sister when they were 18, 19. I was born when they were 22 years old, and now I'm 35, and I just can't imagine. I go back and think about it sometimes. If I had three kids, who the oldest at this point would have been 17 and the youngest 9, um, I don't know what I would do. So
Yeah.
I'm very blessed for them, and I come from a line of, I like to call it 4 generations of engineers. So my
Yep.
dad was a professional engineer, civil, heavy civil. My grandpa was president of a construction company for 30 plus years, which was also heavy civil engineering. And my one of my great grandpas was an engineer on a railroad who was the other type of engineer. So really, it's like 4 generations of engineering. I always grew up knowing that basically that's what I was going to do, was
Right.
be an engineer. And it's just how my mind worked. Everybody else was saying they're going to be an astronaut or a police officer or firefighter when they were 8 years old. And I was like, well, I'm going to be like my dad. I'm going to be an engineer. I developed that through school, and I was very active. One of the things my dad always told us, especially through high school, was that you're either going to get a job or you're going to be playing a sport. So, because of that, I was a 3 sport athlete every year of high school. I'd play a sport and I'd play summer leagues. I did a whole bunch of different sports: baseball, football, track and field. Uh, when I was younger, I played some soccer, some basketball, but really when I was in 6th grade, so about 11 or 12 years old, I think 11 years old, my dad had stuck me in wrestling, and I developed from there, got to high school, wrestled through high school, and ended up going to Oregon State University, where I wrestled for the program there, under some really high level coaches at the time. The assistant head coach was the head coach of the Olympic team for the men's and women's U.S. Olympic team while I was there. That'd be Troy Steiner, and then my our head coach was the 1980s wrestler of the decade and a 3-time NCAA champion, Jim Zaleski. And they both came from an elite program of Iowa and had transferred over to Oregon State. And so I wrestled for them for 4 years, gained a lot of experience through that, especially with, I'm still close with like Troy Steiner. Text him and call him sometimes, and he liked to implement fitness regimens from other sports and other training methodologies into our training. So we were doing a variety of different things that other programs weren't. And that's one of the things that we always uh, prided ourselves on. One of our mottos was relentless pressure. Our off West Coast offense attack, like you're always putting pressure on the opponent. You're never like sitting there defending. You know how to counter and everything, but you are always applying the pressure to the opponent to make them have to react to you instead of reacting to the way that they would perform. And
Mm.
I take a lot of that and do it, myself nowadays in a lot of different things. And from there, I sustained a lot of different injuries, but from there, I went on to start running marathons and triathlons because my mom was doing them. And I really like to, I just have an obsessive personality. I like to study things and learn as much as I can about them. And I never got a degree in exercise or sports science, but I've probably read more textbooks than people who might get degrees in that because I just spend time trying to find the books and the applications of it. So from there, I ran marathons, triathlons. At the time, I ran 3 marathons, one a year after college wrestling because I thought I could just jump into them. My best one at that time was 3 hours and 36 minutes. I more recently, about 3 weeks ago, ran my first marathon under 3 hours. And I'll get into that. But while I was training for a marathon, I only really trained for one of them. That was the second one. I started coaching my mom and my dad as well. And um, they did Ironmans, like full and half Ironmans and uh, Silvermans and Olympic distance triathlons. And I was able to, they were 45 to 50 years old at the time, and was able to get them both to under a 12-hour Ironman
Wow.
finish time, which was just awesome. Especially like my mom and dad, they hadn't worked out in a long time, and it was something they could do together. And I love being able to watch them do those things. And so I got myself training that, and then after running and long endurance sports like that, I'd found CrossFit late 2013. Uh, and I started competing for CrossFit because I was just like anybody else who has an athletic background, like, oh, I can make the CrossFit games. Like, started trying to do that, and I sustained a couple different injuries that unfortunately put me out. I came really close in 2018 to actually making regionals, uh, but I never made it that far. I was ended up a few spots out on the first page in our region. But I learned a lot, and then the next year I thought I was going to make it, and ended up about 5 days before the CrossFit Open had to have surgery and get an appendectomy because I had an appendicitis. So it was uh, it was bittersweet, but after that, you try again. Came back a little too soon. Ended up having to have back surgery, and never really was able to get to the strength levels I needed to be able to progress in that sport. And while I was doing that, my wife, Lauren Weeks, who is an amazing coach herself, and an amazing athlete. She's three-time High Rocks world champion at this point. Um, and she took ninth place while she was 8 months pregnant with our daughter. Uh, she has helped me, but she got into High Rocks, and I really focus a lot of my attention on her. I love doing the things that she enjoys. So when she enjoys something, I turn my focus to that. I hyper focus on it. I get obsessive about it, and that's kind of what happened with High Rocks and other hybrid fitness sports. We've done a lot of different ones over the last few years, including uh, Tough Mudder X, Deca Fits, and obviously High Rocks and the Go Ruck games, and Battle Bunker game. Like, we've done so many different ones that they all blend together. Rally in the Valley. So while still having like a CrossFit base, and she was a really good CrossFitter herself. So I've got to just work alongside of her for a long time,
Mm.
and it's been great. We went from training partner to coach athlete relationship. Had a little transition there, and otherwise it's just been a really fun time. And so athletically, uh, I've developed, and coaching wise, could go over that, but it's been about 35 now, so it's been about 13, 14 years of different coaching. You can include longer than that if I add coaching wrestling camps when we were in college for the high schoolers. Uh, but along with like trying to learn and develop myself, I have a tendency to uh, gather credentials and certifications like Pokemon cards. I just collect them, right? They're little badges. And so some of the ones that I've done, like I've taken supplemental CrossFit courses like the Hyperfit USA course, Spot the Flaw, CrossFit for competitive athletes, CrossFit running, CrossFit programming for competitive athletes, CrossFit lesson planning. I was a judge at the 2017 regionals. I have my CrossFit level 3, which is a certified CrossFit trainer. And I have my USA weightlifting sports performance coach certification. And that's all that field. I'm a registered professional engineer in 12 different states and jurisdictions um,
Wow.
in the US. So I just gather things like that to myself all the time. I'll be taking a couple more tests in the future, and I can add to that, but they're just letters and extra things right now.
Were
But I
you
like to apply them.
were you always like that? I mean, have you always been, um, let's just say like, um, have you always had the mindset of knowledge is power? Um,
Yeah, I did really well in school. I would do really well at like just getting things. I understood. the way that I was being taught. My dad would help me a lot. Uh, but like I was an A student, you know, like straight A's through almost all of school. Actually, my worst classes were always like English and articulating English and that kind of stuff. So it was much more anything logic based, math based. That was it. It just came naturally for me.
Mm.
Uh, I think I have a picture of my dad was in college when he still had 2 years of college left when my mom when I was born.
When you're born,
And
yeah.
I got a picture of me being like 1 or 2 years old, and now I have a 1 or 2 year old daughter, and I just can't imagine this. But he would do his calculus because he was an engineer too. He would do calculus homework with me sitting right there over him. So I'm just wondering if
Wow.
I just picked it up when I was
You
real
picked it
little.
up then,
Yeah.
there and then.
So uh,
Um,
yeah, and um I ended up coaching CrossFit classes and boot camp classes for about 5 years. And from 2015 to 2018, I was the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I was their CrossFit PEX coach and boot camp professor. So I coached at a university level for about 4 years.
yeah, great, great. Same question that you threw me. What has been your proudest moment as a coach?
So there's a lot of them. I don't know if I could just pick one. Like seeing my parents run sub 12-hour Ironmans is fantastic. You know, that's an
Yeah.
accomplishment. That's a very long one. Seeing my wife every like when she wins a world championship, like just absolutely. I love watching her compete every single time she does compete. So those are always and it's the focus is on her, and I love that the focus is on her. And then when they finish, rightfully so, they put in so much work, but it feels good like you're almost part of a team, and to see a teammate succeed is really happy for me. Uh, I was also I've been part of two different teams that have helped two different people lose 100 pounds or more.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
that's really emotional to see them like achieve that goal. People that lose 100 pounds, like one of the things we do with them is I give them 100 pound dumbbell and say, okay, now walk around. Like this was you, you
Yeah.
had this on you, and they just walk around. And one of the guys actually, his first class was like my second week of coaching. And so we kind of grew together.
Wow.
And so when he finally did, it was about a year, maybe a little bit, a year and a quarter, maybe 15 months later, it took him to actually reach that goal. You know, he had a nutrition person helping him as well. He went from about 290 pounds to 190 or something.
Mm.
And he just, his whole life changed. And it was awesome to be a part of that.
Mm. Yeah,
So,
that's amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think like understanding your background and then my background, like I think the most important thing that I've learned along the way as a coach, more specifically, Anthony, is being able to be open-minded and continue to learn. I'll be honest, like I wasn't like that or like this in my early 20s or before. It's only been the last, let's just say 5 or 6 years where I've learned that um, there's not necessarily one right way to train or to coach or to work out. The beauty of what we do on the daily is to try to get the most out of an individual. That's that's the goal, right? On a
mhm.
daily basis. And the way I view it now is that there's no right or wrong to an extent. The most important thing that I've learned is that to get the most out of the individual, you've got to build a relationship with them.
Mhm.
Um, and um, and that's what I cherish now, right? Is the ability to understand, a certain athlete's why
Yep.
and go from there. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, actually, that was one of the hardest things for me to grasp as a coach is I had a pretty good grasp of the programming and how to get somebody where they needed to be and everything, but like connecting person to person. Um, I just I never for a while it took me a while, 2, 3 years to actually understand how to connect with someone that is really important in their goals. Like it's not people don't remember what you do or what you teach them. They remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And that really changed just my coaching style even. I went from being pretty blunt and like that's not right, do it like this, to like, oh, that's what this person can do, and celebrating what they're
Yeah.
able to do instead of pointing out how they should have been doing it. And that celebration of the things they're able to do, I think, has really progressed me. And I owe almost all of that to Lauren. And she is extremely compassionate. She comes from that side of it to connect with the person first. And that has been huge in terms of coaching on my side. And so uh, I
That's
know we
awesome.
got a ton more to talk about. I'm gonna have to wrap it up here in a minute, but let's just get into how our topic for the day was going to be how to stay generally fit year round to be ready at any event, and then how to prepare for specific events. We don't got a ton of time for that, but um, what can you tell me about being able to sustain your fitness for the long term?
Yeah, and I think we might I think we might do this specific um um uh topic again, sorry, this specific topic again because we don't have a lot of time. But I think from my end, Anthony, like I think the most important thing is to make sure that um you're allowing yourself the opportunity to um vary your training as much as possible. If you want to be fit all year round, I personally think that um, from a physical point of view, but also a mental point of view, you've got to vary your training. And what that means is unless you are a month, 2 months out of a competition, and let's just specifically go high rocks, right? Unless you're 2 months out of a high rocks race, you should be still trying to tick a lot of the fitness boxes off each week, and that is such things as aerobic conditioning, pure strength, power, anaerobic thresholds, and so on and so forth. To then go into a 2 month block of specific training. I think that's the number one thing about making sure that your training is varied so that it doesn't get mundane and boring, but also two, you don't get injured and you don't get unhealthy with what the type and the structure of the mundane, let's just call it boring training is. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to find the training that's the most sustainable for year-round improvement. And along those lines is that you can improve incrementally, and it wouldn't be as fast if you were only focusing on one thing. So if you're only focusing on running, you can get better pretty quickly. If you're only focusing on weightlifting, you can get better pretty quickly. But that improvement can be spread across many domains, and you won't increase as much in each of those domains, but you can increase a little bit at a time in each one and maintain where you're at. And so absolutely believe that, like, yes, when you come up to a competition, that's when you need to specifically focus. And I usually look about 4 to 6 weeks out, like, okay, we got to do this movement specific stuff. But to maintain year round, one of the most important things you have to do is it has to be fun for you. It has to be something you enjoy doing, and you can't get injured. So having
Yeah,
a program where like you understand the loads and the risk applied to your body and what you can handle is extremely important.
yeah,
And having a coach that can talk that out with you.
yeah, yeah. And so that was my next answer, right? It's having the support around you that that you can lean on to be able to stay. The word consistent, right, comes up all the time in our world. Like, if you want to stay consistent all year round, you can't do it alone. And like I've learned that the hard way, and we could get into that at some stage as well. But I've learned that the hard way, and you want to make sure you're setting yourself up for success by having the right people, the coaches, but not only the coaches, Anthony, but your family, your friends,
structure. Yep.
yeah, your loved ones,
Team support.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the support system around you is so important as well.
Yep. And so I agree. I think we definitely need to dive deeper into this topic, and we'll get into that in future episodes. But I'm gonna have to run. I do have another job I need to get to, and we have a meeting here in a minute. So thank you everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed our backgrounds a little bit. We'll obviously go into more depth and more everything on the way through this journey of our new podcast. So thanks for listening, and hope you tune in to the next one.
We'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.